The wait is finally over, everyone. I am finally tackling the one star you have requested for nearly 2 full years. I'm honestly baffled that he stayed off my list for this long. Likely, there were just far more obvious targets begging for a reality check. Meanwhile, the hype for this deep dive is hitting levels I have not seen since that infamous teacher ranking. Real ones, remember. After months of exposing actors whose flaws were hidden by branding and nostalgia, skipping this man would be a total fraud. Keanu Reeves is bulletproof. His shield is not critical acclaim, but pure culture. Years of internet memes and public kindness have created the ultimate PR machine. Mix a heartbreaking history with a cult-like obsession over his aura, and he's been immune to criticism for decades. He's just a solid guy. This is where things get interesting. Keanu has a remarkably narrow acting range, yet his flaws are constantly rebranded as artistic choices. If he is wooden, fans call it intentional stoicism. When he sounds bored, it is suddenly labeled as some form of Zen minimalism. A blank stare is treated like hidden depth. Eventually, people stopped judging his actual talent and just started making excuses for him. Keanu figured out early in the game that he could skip the emotional heavy lifting and still get paid millions. Movie after movie, directors rewrite scripts just to fit his struggle with expressing inner turmoil or real change. Viewers do the work for him, imagining emotions that are not there and confusing his weakness for a specific style. It is time we distinguish the nice guy from the actor and judge the actual footage. Let us dive into the details. The 4 John Wick chapters follow a former hitman dragged back into a world of bizarre rituals and criminal red tape. A tiny spark sets the whole plot in motion, triggering John's dark spiral. After that, the franchise explodes in size with every new entry. Higher body counts, global settings, and thick layers of plot armor. Every sequel expands the lore, while the main character stays exactly the same. John never grows or reflects on his life. The movies rely on bigger explosions, while he sticks to simple grunts and an intense, stone-cold stare. These films bet on the idea that cool legends matter more than personality. John Wick is less of a person and more of a symbol. He is walking revenge. The director uses vibes and set design to do the emotional work, hoping silence feels like wisdom rather than emptiness. Look, we have all watched these movies, so you know the deal. It is essentially following the same path as the Fast and Furious series. A great concept that got stretched thin for money. This saga is definitely what introduced him to a brand new wave of younger cinema fans. In terms of sheer popularity, only the Matrix trilogy can compete with his work here. We are skipping Neo today for the same reason I brought up Wick. Both roles use the actor in nearly identical ways. The themes and concepts being explored are far more captivating than the actual people on screen. From the chosen one trope to the spirit of revenge, the stunts do all the heavy lifting to sell those metaphors. Playing a guide or a stand-in for the viewer does not require much besides fitting the costume and looking cool. Wick has zero room for actual character development. That is why it works for Keanu. It hides his lack of range instead of forcing him to show it. I'm not saying he ruined those hits, but notice what happens when he has to actually act. Take The Watcher, a 1990s thriller built on a standard cat and mouse plot. A profiler named Joel Campbell gets harassed by a killer who calls his shots, keeping the police on their toes. The movie tries to focus on the creepy bond between the predator and the prey. The villain is supposed to be a master puppeteer, someone who thrives on scaring people and destroying their peace of mind. Keanu portrays David Alan Griffin, a murderer who uses information as his weapon. He pranks the cops and acts like he is everywhere at once. This character needs to be terrifying while staying perfectly calm. Soft voices and chilling confidence are required to show he is in control. This film really exposes Keanu's weaknesses. Unlike his action roles, there is no stunt team to hide behind here. You need nuances. You need mental depth. You need an actor who can seem wicked and smart without shouting. Keanu fails on all counts. His version of Griffin is easily the least scary killer in cinematic history. He looks like some random guy who scrolls the internet all day. He uses that same wooden voice and empty look he uses for his heroic characters. In this context, it is a total disaster. His dialogue sounds so robotic that the character loses all his supposed brilliance. The antagonist seems totally checked out. Griffin is supposed to dominate through speech, and he has way more lines than John Wick. His threats and excuses fall flat, leaving the lead actor with nothing to grasp. The scheme lacks any sadistic thrill, and the suspense is devoid of genuine malice. The performance never suggests the character finds this fun, or even realizes he's playing a game. There is zero psychological weight here, just a series of hollow actions. This film highlights his main issue. Keanu cannot do smart, manipulative, or cruel. He only does empty. This movie proves why he needs scripts that cover for him, and things only get more embarrassing from here. Johnny Mnemonic is a sci-fi nightmare where couriers use their skulls as hard drives. Johnny has to delete his childhood memories just to hold on to corporate data. After taking a job that overloads his brain, the data starts leaking, turning him into a target for mobsters and hitmen. He has to dump the file before his head literally fries. This is supposed to be a tragic personal story. It is about a man who lost his soul to greed and is now dying because he treated his brain like a cheap flash drive. The part calls for panic, agony, and a genuine sense that he is losing who he is. Johnny ought to come across as a man slowly finding out he is hollowed out inside. Instead, Reeves keeps him totally flat from the first frame to the last. Frankly, his way of speaking is just a complete train wreck most of the time. I want to get online, I need a computer, the plot demands a total mental collapse. But the acting never shows one, and do not tell me I am picking on early work, because he was already 10 years deep into his career as a star with a $26 million budget. While Johnny's situation spirals, Reeves does not change his tone, posture, or energy in any real way. He shows pain by shouting. He shows fear by being loud. He uses wide-eyed stares to show confusion. Johnny is supposed to be a guy who already traded his soul for data before the movie even started. That void should look like bitterness or some kind of deep resentment. Instead, Reeves just acts completely blank. The character feels thin because there is no internal logic. Every scene feels like a total reset, as if nothing that happened before actually matters. When the movie gets frantic, Reeves just turns up the volume. Physically, he stays totally passive throughout the chaos. Johnny is being hunted by killers, yet his body language never screams that he is in trouble. He does not live in the pain. The desperation feels fake because he is not doing anything specific with his acting. Unlike The Matrix, there is no cool vibe to cover the emptiness. You could argue Neo's blankness is just him waking up, if you are being generous. Johnny Mnemonic does not have that luxury. That minimalist style only works if the movie treats it like deep philosophy. When a story needs us to see a character thinking, hurting, or falling apart, Reeves just cannot pull it off. Chain Reaction is just another mid-90s thriller feeding into that era's favourite fantasy. It claims that science, corporate greed, and government plots can be fixed with foot chases, explosions, and some weak moralizing. The story centers on Eddie Kasselvich, a student on a clean energy team that has basically discovered infinite power. After the lab gets blown up and his boss is murdered, Eddie is framed as a terrorist and has to run from corporate hitmen and federal agents trying to bury the tech. Eddie is your basic reluctant hero, smart but totally out of his element and forced into a fight. The role needs a sense of urgency and a shift from being an innocent kid to a hardened survivor. We need to believe Eddie is outsmarting the hunters and feeling the weight of being a fugitive for a cause he barely understands. None of that happens. Keanu's Eddie is not even a person. He plays him as literally confused from the jump. He looks totally lost in every scene. The way he says his lines makes it seem like he does not know what he is saying or why it matters. Serious conversations turn into weird pauses. It feels like he is hearing the plot points for the first time right along with the audience. Reeves never looks smart. He reacts to everything with the same open-mouthed shock, no matter how high the stakes are. Discovery, fear, and grit all look exactly the same. Mild panic and a slow brain. His voice goes from mumbling to a flat drone in the same breath. He misses every important emphasis. Lines meant to sound serious have zero authority or punch behind them. Every time Eddie attempts to sound righteous, he comes off like a hostage reading a script. Even while being hunted, his performance remains stiff. Reeves never shifts his physical energy to reflect the heavy toll of the plot. Those big heroic moments feel hollow because the actor never truly connects with the character's internal struggle. His famous stone-faced style kills the movie here. Eddie is not some legendary figure, he is just a regular guy in a bad spot. The film reveals how much he relies on others to carry him. The story needed a savior, but he failed. He only magnifies the emptiness. By the credits, Eddie Kasselvich hasn't evolved because the acting never suggested growth was possible. The plot thickens, the danger grows, but Reeves stays emotionally and mentally stuck in neutral. Before he figured out his stiff style works best in big action movies, he actually gave rom-coms a shot. Sweet November is about Nelson Moss, a high-octane ad guy who lives for work and a strict schedule. He meets Sarah, a quirky woman who wants him to move in for a month to fix his life, and he actually says yes. The whole movie depends on him changing from a cold workaholic to a man who can actually love someone. Reeves never sells that initial coldness, so the whole character arc falls apart immediately. He looks bored the entire time. Plus, he does not fit the vibe of a corporate shark who finally learns how to have a heart. Usually, these rom-com leads have a charm that makes the girl fall for them. Here, it feels wrong because he clearly does not belong in this genre. You can see his discomfort in every movement. Since he never sets a clear starting point, there is no impact when he is supposed to change. As the love story moves forward, he does not show any internal shift. His voice stays flat, and his emotions are barely there. Moments that should show him moving from annoyance to love just blur together into one big mess. That jump from being annoyed to being in love feels fake because he does not play the small steps in between. When he needs to be vulnerable, he just acts indifferent. He never looks like he is actually falling apart. This movie needs emotional flexibility, and he just does not have it. Without that, the romance is just something the script says is happening, not something we actually see on screen. The Day the Earth Stood Still is basically a modern take on the 1951 classic, updated for today's environmental fears. This flick tracks an extraterrestrial envoy weighing if mankind deserves to stick around. His arrival sparks worldwide panic and a high-stakes ethical trial. Either we prove we can change our ways, or the world gets scrubbed of its most ruinous species. He acts as a detached witness rather than a hero, yet he shouldn't feel like a total void. From the start, Keanu uses a flat voice and stiff posture that never actually shifts. It's meant to look alien, but honestly, there's just nothing going on upstairs. It's a total cop-out. The character feels totally checked out, masking a lack of range with a monotone drone. The issue isn't being stoic, it's that he doesn't swap emotion for thought. A cosmic observer should look like he's processing things. Instead, his delivery is flat in every scene and lacks any real weight. The movie claims his mind is shifting as he sees us at our best and worst, yet Keanu never sells it. Any growth happens purely through the dialogue. This film tries to be a deeply intellectual piece. This story explores group shame and ethics, questioning if panic-induced growth is even legitimate. Everything hinges on how we perceive the character of Klaatu. But Keanu's wooden delivery clouds the whole message. Since he can't portray deep reflection, the movie resorts to preachy dialogue rather than showing us the struggle. It's a recurring issue once you peel back the hype and clever camera work. Without the cinematic bells and whistles, his acting lacks any real mental weight or growth. These movies fail not from overambition, but because the lead simply cannot breathe life into the complex script. I hope it's clear why the John Wick hype feels unearned. There's so little actual acting required that his stagnant skills, barely better than 30 years ago, stay hidden. If a lead lacks emotional depth, the script works overtime to fix it until it eventually just quits. That wraps up our deep dive. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.